What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Charles Wells, aka C Wells, coming at you with another edition of SWAC Talk, the show where we cover the SWAC inside and out. Today, we're going to talk about the Bethune Cookman Wildcats and their inaugural SWAC season. So, we're going to go ahead and clap it up and welcome them to the SWAC. Um, they were picked fifth by the media in the preseason order of finish in the East Division, fifth place. I picked them fourth, but looking at the schedule and looking at some of their returning pieces, it's gonna be a interesting season for them. Before we get too deep in that, let's go ahead and get all the socials and all that out the way. Facebook.com/SWACtalk, Twitter.com/SWACtalk76, Instagram.com/SWACtalk, SWACtalk76 at gmail.com is the email address. If you would like to show a little love to the show, you can hit the Cash App $/SWAC Talk. You can go ahead and do that if you like. If not, then just your support and love is appreciated 100%. We're over 210 subscribers, so I'd like to thank everybody for jumping on board as we continue to grow. Um, also, there's some, there's Swag Talk is a podcast for show. That's what we started, and we're still doing that. So you can check that out on anchor.fm/Swag Talk. You can also check that out on Spotify, Stitcher, Breaker, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and we have a Bethune Cookman preview up today, so you can check that out. And Wednesday we'll have our Florida A&M preview on YouTube and on podcast. Thursday we have another edition of All the Smoke, Swag Smoke. We haven't really came up with 100% name. Me and my boy DJ, we doing that. We're gonna just sit back and chop it up and talk about swag topics. So we'll be doing that this week. We're gonna talk about our top five SWAC players from our respective universities. I'm a Southern grad. He's a UAPB grad. But we're also going to talk about some of the SWAC players from other schools that we enjoyed watching in our time coming up. So hopefully you guys have checked it out. I see a lot of people checked out the first episode. It went fair. It went really well. So I anticipate another fire episode to drop. So with all that out the way, man, let's talk about Bethune Cookman. This team is coached by Terry Sims, and he is 34-21 in his time at Bethune Cookman. He's been there 5 years. They went 7-4 in 2019. They did not play in the spring. 2018 they were 7-5. I think they were also 7-4 or 7-5 in 2018. So they're a team who pretty much finishes in the same record. 6-2, 5-2, 5-3 in the conference the last 3 years. So they're always been a contender in the MEAC. We can say it over and over again. They've won the Florida Classic 9 years in a row. So that's another accomplishment that they can put in their cap. But this team last year, well, in 2019, they averaged 24 points per game. They allowed 25, so pretty even. They rushed for 162 yards per game on offense. They allowed 193 yards rushing on defense per game. Passing, they threw for 200. Excuse me, they threw for 164 yards per game passing. So again, they didn't hurt you really in any real way. Their quarterback Kevius Williams, I'm sure I'm mispronouncing his name, but he was more of a runner than a passer. And they are a team who does want to run the football. They ran the ball 300. They ran the ball 394 times to 278 passes. So they like to run the ball more than they throw it. Defensively, they allowed 200 yards per game passing. They had 8 interceptions as a defense. They threw 6 as an offense, 11 touchdowns on offense passing, 19 passing touchdowns by the defense. Bethune Cookman had 28 sacks as a defense, 29 for the opponents. Just looking at some of the individual guys who are returning, the leading rusher returning is Isaac Washington. He has 655 yards on the ground, and he has a net rushing total of 636, 5 touchdowns. He averaged 5.3 yards per rush. Like I said, Williams, the quarterback, was their second leading rusher. He had 571 yards and 10 touchdowns. Ladarian Wilson was the second leading returning rusher. He had 106 yards and 4 touchdowns. Passing, they're gonna have somebody new at quarterback. They returned 3 quarterbacks who threw a total of 9 passes on the season. They were 4 for 9 with 1 touchdown. They did get Shannon Patrick, who is a transfer from UAPB. He split time starting with Skylar Perry, although he got the bulk of the snaps. I think by midseason he was the full-time quarterback at UAPB, so that's a nice addition for them. He's a passer. He's not really a runner, but I think he can help solidify that offense if he can secure the job. Jimmy Robinson is an all-purpose type of guy. He's a great kick returner. He has 1 kick return touchdown in 2019, averaged about 23 yards per return. He caught 17 passes for 39 passes for 468 yards and 4 touchdowns. Also, Stephon Francois, 13 catches, 295 yards, 2 touchdowns. He averaged 22 yards per catch, so he's definitely a guy that's going to get down the field with the ball. Defensively, Ontario Johnson was a second-team all-SWAC selection, along with Nicholas Roos on the offensive line. Johnson's a linebacker. Marquise Hendricks is their leading tackler with 96 tackles. He also has 5.5 tackles for loss, 2 sacks. Devin James, 83 tackles, 7.5 tackles for loss, 1.5 sacks. The leading sack man on the season was Marquise Ford, followed by Judas McKenzie. Ford with 5.5 sacks, McKenzie with 3. The leading interception man was Trevor Merritt. He had 3 interceptions on the season. So this team returned some experienced pieces, but their lack of quarterback experience, or at least experience at Bethune Cookman, is gonna be the key to this team. They do lose, losing a weapon in Williams who can run the ball and throw the ball is definitely a piece that they're gonna have to try to fix. I feel like if Patrick takes the reign of the offense, they'll be okay. Looking at their schedule, they open up at UTEP. If Bethune Cookman had a more established quarterback on offense in terms of experience with this team, I would honestly pick them to beat UTEP. UTEP has been garbage for many years. They were, I think, 3-7 or 3-6 on the season in 2020. They played 2 FCS opponents that year, and they won those games by a combined 13 points. So, that's a team that they don't have a lot of success. They're always struggling. I think, Bethune Cookman can keep this close. They may have a shot, but right now I'm going to go with UTEP. September 11th, they go to Orlando to take on UCF. Gus Malzahn is at UCF now. Dylan Gabriel is the quarterback. They have explosive offense. I think they're going to be too much for Bethune Cookman. September 16th, Thursday night in Daytona Beach, Alabama A&M comes to town for the Wildcats' first ever SWAC game. And this is going to be a tough game for Bethune Cookman. We all know what Alabama A&M has on offense. They just added another transfer running back. So they are piling up the guys through the portal. Defensively, they took a big loss in the portal with Marcus Cushiony, the defensive end, but they added a lot of pieces on defense. So the Bulldogs, even though they won the SWAC in the spring, they're still hungry. Coach Mano said that they're going to win spring and fall championships, be the only team that will ever win a championship, 2 championships in 1 year. So I think A&M wins this game. I think they just have too much for Bethune Cookman, especially this early in the season, which sets up a game that I think is vitally important for Bethune Cookman, and that's the Alabama State game on September 25th. They go to Montgomery to take on the Hornets. I've wavered back and forth on this game, and if you listen to my podcast, you'll hear how I was very, very confused on who to pick, and I'm still unsure because I think Alabama State has some really good weapons on offense, and I love their defense. But I think that Bethune Cookman, these are the kind of games that they tend to fare well in. This is a game that I think that they can establish themselves, and I think they'll find a way to win this game against Alabama State. This game is probably the make or break game for their season because it doesn't get much easier after this. October 2nd, they go to Orangeburg to take on South Carolina State. I picked Bethune Cookman to win this game simply for the fact that, obviously this program is very familiar with South Carolina State, and they play the same style of ball to a degree. And I think that Bethune Cookman at this point, they will be who they are. I think if they establish their quarterback by this point in the season, they will be what their final product is basically. And they're going to continue to want to run the football. I think they'll do that well enough to win this game. October 9th, they host Valley for homecoming. I think Valley is going to be better. I've said it, already 3 times in my previews, but I'm just not sold on Valley, how well they'll be away from Itabena. So I'm going to go with Bethune Cookman. It's homecoming. I think they'll win that game. October 16th, they host Prairie View. I think this is going to be a good game. Defensively, especially Prairie View's defense is still going to be solid. I think Bethune Cookman defense is going to be pretty solid. They won't be a top 3 defense, but they'll be a team that's going to be tough to score a lot of points on. We don't know what Prairie View's offense is going to be yet this year. They have a lot of pieces that they have to add, so we'll see. But I'm going to go with Bethune Cookman to win that game. October 23rd, they head to Jackson to take on the Tigers. I'm picking JSU to win this game. I've said it time and time again. By this point in the season, Jackson State should be playing well, and if they are, then it's going to be tough for anybody to beat them. I don't think Bethune Cookman has the firepower to keep up with Jackson State if their offense is clicking. If the dark side defense is playing well, then I don't think they're going to be able to move the ball that much either. They had to come from behind to beat a bad Jackson State team in 2019. So I don't think that they have the firepower to win this game. I think Jackson wins this game. But that's going to contradict what my next pick is, so don't come for me. Because I made this pick in my Alcorn preview, and I'm going to stick with it just for the fact that I made it there. I'm picking Bethune Cookman to upset Alcorn just because Alcorn at this point will be played 4 games in a row on the road. I think they may, let down a little bit. I'm not saying that they will, and I'm not gonna put nothing on Bethune Cookman winning this game. I ain't that confident in it. But I was kind of blind picking in that game, looking at this team a little bit closer. I don't feel as confident, but I said it, so I'm gonna say it again. But I think that I'm fairly sure Alcorn will probably win this game. But I think if there's a game that Bethune Cookman can get somebody in the top half of one of the divisions, is this one. It is at home. They're a tougher team at home. The Alabama A&M game is too early in the schedule for me to pick them to win that game. But I think that they can shake up a couple things if they win this game. Not enough for them to make a move, but maybe shake it up for other people. But I think I'm gonna pick them just because I did in the previous one. November 13th, they go to Grambling. Again, Grambling's a team we don't know what they're gonna do. They're saying all the right things right now. The spring, I don't really put a whole lot of stock in that. Grambling and Coach Fobbs are a program that they may be down, and then they bounce back up. The last couple of years, they started off 0-4, and then they won 5 or 6 games in a row. So you can't really count Grambling out. I think Bethune Cookman will win this game though, just because I don't think Grambling is Grambling yet. I don't think they will be Grambling this year, but I think they'll be better than they were in the spring. But I'm going to go with Bethune Cookman in that matchup, which heads into the Florida Classic in Orlando. I'm picking FAMU to get off the every talking about it. At some point, it's got to end right. I don't think it's going to get to 10, so I think Bethune Cookman is going to drop that, which gives them a final record of 6-5. And that's what giving them a couple wins that they may not get. I would give it their best case scenario is 7-4. Anything more than that is going to require a win in one of the FBS games, most likely UTEP, and probably beating Alabama A&M, Jackson, or FAMU. Like I said, I picked those teams as my top 3 East teams. So to win more than 7 games, they would have to beat at least one of those teams and maybe a FBS opponent, because I don't really see them winning, 2 or 3 of those top half games in the East. And obviously a lot of that hinges on that Alcorn game. Worst case scenario, I say 5-6. I don't think they win less than 5 games, so I'm gonna put them at that 6-5 spot and ultimately finishing 4th in the division. Bethune Cookman is gonna that kind of flies under the radar. They're not a flashy team. They're not a team that's gonna make a lot of waves with who they are and what they do. They have a system that they run, and they do what they do. So this was a very interesting team to look at. Like I said, I didn't have a lot of idea of who they were. I don't keep up with them as much. FAMU kind of speaks for itself, whether you want to or not. You're gonna kind of keep up with the Rattlers because they always out there. Bethune Cookman is always kind of floating under the radar. They don't really be too flashy, and you look up and they've won 6 or 7 games. So I think this is gonna be the same type of season, but that East Division obviously is gonna be tough. Having a pretty decent home schedule is gonna help them out. Not a very treacherous road schedule, but still some games that they can drop. Like I said, honestly, to me, the season hinges on that Alabama State game. I know that's like the 4th game of the year. Your season shouldn't hinge on the 4th game of the year. But I think if they don't win that game, coming off of most likely an 0-3 start, it's going to be tough to get going, especially with South Carolina State coming right after that. So that game pretty much will probably make or break their season. Now, if they can find a way to get an upset at the beginning of the season, then, things may change. But right now, the pivotal game for me, besides the Florida Classic, because, that's a huge rivalry, records don't matter. Besides that game, the Alabama State game to me is the game that this season hinges on. So that's going to do it for me today. We'll be back on Wednesday with the Florida A&M preview on YouTube and podcast. And on Thursday, we'll have another edition of All the Smoke with my boy DJ, or SWAC Smoke. We ain't really came up with a 100% name yet. We work in progress right there, but we'll be back on Thursday with another edition of that. That's going to do it. And I'm going to bounce up out of here, man. Y'all enjoy y'all weekend.